Content is a massive driver of growth for your brand, right? But let's be real. It's also this unpredictable, massive drain on your resources. So in this explainer, we're diving into a brilliantly structured approach from ToolDrop that shifts your entire operation from an exhausting manual cycle to a permanent, AI-driven asset.
Ask yourself this: when your team sits down to spin up a new campaign, how much time are they spending just reinventing the wheel? They're hunting down old style guidelines, testing prompts over and over, and trying to remember what actually worked last time. It's literally like paying to pour the foundation of a house every single time you want to build a new room. From an ROI perspective, it is completely inefficient.
To fix this, we're going to take a quick factory tour of a totally new paradigm. First, we'll look at the content production trap, then shift to building a permanent system. Set up your 6 layers of intelligence, automate your strategy and assets, and finally, figure out how to scale your ultimate content ROI.
Okay, Section 1, the content production trap, and how we escape this endless cycle of manual creation.
Look, here's the trap we all fall into. You find a tutorial, copy a few prompts, and hey, you get a decent result. But the problem is that knowledge lives entirely in the short-term memory of whoever just did the work. Come next Monday, the slate is wiped totally clean. It's the exact same research, the same prompt hunting. As a leader, you are essentially paying your team to start completely from scratch every single week.
Moving right along to Section 2, System over One-Off Workflows. This is all about building intelligence that literally never resets. So instead of relying on this exhausting ad hoc workflow, imagine building a system just once. A system that permanently knows your niche, your audience, and your specific style. You just feed it a topic, and it handles the rest. And the best part? Unlike your best copywriter, this system doesn't forget your brand guidelines after a long holiday weekend. The intelligence never resets, and that is what guarantees true scalability for your business.
All right, Section 3, 6 layers of intelligence. Let's talk about institutionalizing your strategy. By using NotebookLM, you can create a dedicated knowledge base for each critical layer of your strategy. Notebooks 1 and 2, they handle the market, tracking competitor gaps and diving deep into audience psychology. Then, Notebooks 3 and 4 decode the actual mechanics of your visual content, mapping out hook patterns and pacing craft. And finally, Notebooks 5 and 6 lock in your visual identity and specific tool prompt guidelines. Basically, you're taking your brand's secret sauce and hard-coding it into the system.
The big takeaway here is that after today, you pretty much never touch these 6 notebooks again, unless your market drastically changes. They become your permanent corporate memory. I mean, think about it. This is the ultimate executive leverage. If a key employee leaves, your strategy doesn't just walk out the door with them. It stays right here, acting as the foundation for every single piece of content you make moving forward.
Let's dive into Section 4, automating strategy and assets. These are your execution engines.
Now, your team is going to set up a custom Gemini gem connected to those 6 notebooks we just talked about. We'll call this the story engine. Suddenly, your team's job is no longer staring blankly at an empty page. Instead, they just bring the raw creative inputs like unique emotional angles or historical moments. The gem takes those raw materials, references all your stored psychology data, and instantly outputs a perfectly structured script. Your humans get to focus on the what, and the system flawlessly handles the how.
And because the output from this story engine is so remarkably clean, meaning there are no annoying stage directions you have to manually edit out, you can drop it directly into a voice generation tool like 11 Labs. Their free tier actually gives you 10,000 characters, which is plenty for a solid 15 to 20-minute explainer. You generate the voiceover, and really, your only manual task here is to jot down the exact length of that audio in seconds.
Now, here's where the magic really scales up. You build a second gem, the asset generator. You feed it your finished script, the exact audio length you just jotted down, and the math for your visual scenes. For example, if your visual tool generates 6-second clips, you just tell the gem to make scenes 5.5 seconds long to leave room for transitions. This gem does all the heavy lifting, outputting a complete scene-by-scene production table that is perfectly timed with absolutely zero guesswork. So what you have now is this highly structured, totally manageable factory line. It goes from script to audio to assets to assembly. You've successfully engineered the chaos right out of the process. Your creative team is now operating a slick, institutionalized system instead of blindly hammering away at individual disconnected tasks.
Which brings us to Section 5, Scaling Your Content ROI. This is the final executive decision.
With this whole plan in place, you hit a bit of a fork in the road for the actual generation part, and it boils down to a classic executive decision: budget versus speed. For starting frames, you use Flow Nano Banana 2, which is free and unlimited. Then for generating the motion, you can take the paid route with a tool like Higgsfield V3, getting your clips super fast in about 60 seconds. Or you could take the free route with 10-cent Hunyuan. It still gives you publishable quality, but it takes about 5 to 10 minutes per clip, and you've got to do a quick watermark crop. It's your system, so it's totally your choice.
But no matter which path you choose, they both end at the exact same place: your final editor. But instead of staring at a messy folder of random assets, your AI-generated production table tells the editor exactly which clip goes where. You drop the audio in, drop the generated clips on the markers, add some dissolve transitions and background music, and boom, you are done. The assembly is incredibly rapid because the cognitive load was already handled entirely by your asset generator beforehand.
As an executive, you now simply choose what you pay with for content creation. You pay with money for speed, or you pay with time for free tools. But the one thing you are no longer paying for: redundant human effort, lost strategic knowledge, and the endless, exhausting cycle of starting from scratch every Monday. The technology to institutionalize your brand's intelligence is literally right here. So, are you going to keep renting your content strategy week by week, or are you finally ready to own the factory?